Hello, welcome to CAP Tulsa's 2020 Virtual Kindergarten Transition Event. Today we are focusing on TPS, and we have some special guests today that are serving as panelists that will be able to answer all of your questions in regards to transitioning from our CAP Tulsa program to our TPS school system. So with that, we have a couple of things that we'll go over, and we will start by what exactly is a transition. So we'll go over what that looks like for you and your child, and then my co-presenter, Miriam Conley, she is the CAP Tulsa ECP data specialist. She'll go over the importance of a kindergarten transition. From there, then she will do the introductions of our panelists, and we'll go into some frequently asked questions that we've had both in the past and current for parents and families that go through this transition process. So first, just to go over a little bit of technology, if you have a question to ask, it depends on which device you are using, but if you're using a laptop, down at the bottom, there is a Q&A box right to the side of your chat box. Please feel free to ask any questions that you may have. And then also, if you are on your phone or handheld device, then that Q&A button should be at the top of your screen. Also, these questions can be submitted anonymously, and we'll be able to either answer it live or be able to text it back to you. And we will answer all questions that are submitted after our frequently asked question slideshow ends. If you need any kind of additional technology support, please utilize our chat box, and you'll have an opportunity to message the moderators directly for any assistance that you need. So going into what exactly is a transition, well, it is a psychological process that occurs in response to any new situations or life events. This is a pretty big event coming up in your 4-year-old's life. This is something that can bring a lot of excitement, joy, and even some angst or nervousness, right? A new territory. So these transitions, they impact our emotional, our physical, intellectual, and psychological development. Very crucial at this age. They can either be positive or negative, and planned or unplanned. Fortunately, in this situation, this is a planned transition. So we want to have the opportunity to really help support and make this as smooth as possible and a very joyous memory for your kiddo. They impact children and adults the exact same way. So just as we're preparing these little guys to go on to the public school, we also want to prepare you as a family and as a caregiver to ensure that you feel like you're set up for success, and go over some really important details that can help you plan for the new year. So a transition process is really made up of 3 different stages. We have our endings, we have our neutral zone, and we have new beginnings. So during this phase, we are coming to an end of this journey with CAP Tulsa. We are currently finding ourselves in this neutral zone, and that is the planning phase that is gearing up for our new beginnings with our friends over at TPS. So in going over that, I will hand it off to Miriam for her to go into why this is some of the most significant transitions in a child's life.
So kindergarten is one of the most significant transitions in a child's life, as Felicia said. If we look at it through the bridges model that Felicia just described, kindergarten represents an end to what your child has grown accustomed to in preschool. So like adults, children grow accustomed to their environments, and your child has become comfortable with their school building, their friends, and their teachers. They understand their current classroom's expectations and daily routines. And they also know what to expect, and many children really take comfort in knowing the structure of their school day. But the first day of kindergarten will mark the beginning of new expectations, routines, and relationships with peers and teachers. Your child will be going into a new learning environment when they attend public school for the first time. So that not only will they learn new things, but they'll also be experiencing the material in a new way. So the material may be taught a little bit different than how it was when they were at CAP. They will learn their way around new buildings, make new friends, and interact with new teachers. And they may also experience a few other things for the first time, like riding a school bus or eating lunch in a cafeteria. So while your child has made progress towards kindergarten readiness, they may still experience anxiety about starting school. And this is the neutral zone for most children because they're fearful about starting kindergarten. So even though they have experience in a classroom setting, they still may be a bit anxious to leave the comfort of their CAP classroom. This is where parents can come in and ease some of that nervousness and uncertainty through strategy. So preparing for kindergarten can be a chance to reassure your child and excite them about the experience. And some of the ways that you can do that are through implementing bedtime routines. So before school starts, you can practice going to bed and waking up at appropriate times. You can talk to your child about kindergarten. So you can talk about your experience, your teacher, your favorite parts of the year, the names of your friends, and what you learned during that time. And you can also read books about kindergarten at home. Another great way to support them is to visit the new school or attend a virtual orientation if possible. So even if you can't tour your new school in person, you can drive by the building or look at pictures of the new school online. And this is just to help your child familiarize themselves with the building and the school route. Another great way is to practice following directions. So you can support them by following and giving directions at home or while running errands. So for example, you can talk about using walking feet at the grocery store, or you could practice direction comprehension by asking your child to repeat their two-step directions back to you. And it's also important for parents to prepare themselves for kindergarten as well. So enrollment processes vary between districts, but parents can prepare by collecting important information in advance of the school year. So to do so, you can explore the district's website. By checking the school's website and social media pages, you can often find important updates there. And the district will also offer information on how to schedule enrollment appointments online if their building is closed to the public. You can also gather required documents for enrollment ahead of time. So applications may ask for important items like birth certificates, emergency contact information, important health and nutrition documents, individualized education plans, IEPs, or other special education documents. They may also ask for identification cards or immunization records. And some districts will ask for proofs of residence, like a utility bill or a proof of income. And it's also important to know all important dates. So you can find all the conference information, enrollment information, and holiday break dates on your school district's website. So since we've talked a little bit about what to expect and how to prepare, now our panelists will introduce themselves. So Marcy, would you like to start?
Hi, I'm Marcy Woodard. I'm an itinerant DD teacher with Tulsa Public Schools, and I go into the CAP Head Start programs and work with children who have already been found eligible to receive special education services and supports.
Thank you, Marcy. Jordan?
Hello, my name is Jordan Sheffield Mix, and I'm the program manager for the Early Childhood Department with Tulsa Public Schools.
Thank you, Jordan. Divani?
Hello, my name is Devani. I'm the Student Recruitment and Community Engagement Coordinator for the Early Childhood team in Tulsa Public Schools.
Thank you, Divani. And also supporting us from CAP are Singh and Mora. Singh, would you like to start?
Hello, my name is Jing. I am a translator for Burmese, and Zomi. I'm from CAP.
Mora?
Hi, my name is Maura Velasquez, and I am bilingual school support for Disney and overall CAP as needed, and I'm happy to be here today.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Andy Cooper. Andy?
I am Andy Cooper, and I am at CAP Tulsa also, and I serve our special education students as well.
Thank you. So if you have any questions, please submit them via the Q&A box. And we are supporting Zomi and Spanish interpretations as well. And Ching and Mora will both be supporting us with that as well. Thank you. Okay. And with that, we'll get into our first question. How do transitions affect children with special needs and developmental concerns? Marcy, would you like to start us off?
Sure. I kind of had a little bit more information. The students transitioning to kindergarten, it's automatically going to roll over to their neighborhood school as long as they are a current student in Power School with Cap Tulsa. If you want your child to transfer to any other school, then you will need to complete an application during the open enrollment period, which is for pre-K and kindergarten, January 5th, 2021 to February 12th, 2021. If your student is receiving special education services and is on an IEP, as soon as you know what school your student is going to attend, we will hold a transition meeting with the receiving team from that school. We want this to be a very smooth transition. At this meeting, it's information about your child, things that they like, things they don't like, what worked for motivation. They'll also be changing the service time on that IEP so that it is ready day one for your student and to be successful.
Thank you, Marcy. Was there anything that anyone else would like to add to that answer?
I think it's also important to remember that sometimes with a child's development, that transitions can often be a little bit more difficult for some. And we have to make that as smooth as possible. And so some of the things that Cap Tulsa can do to help support transitions is we start by having those conversations early. We start by also having a transition to kindergarten setup as far as parents drop, well, during COVID right now, things are a little different, but in typical times, parents would typically drop off at the door instead of walking in their classroom. And so they start to do some of those things that make students more kindergarten ready. And then we as a special services department can also help that transition by attending IEP meetings early and letting students see the classroom. And then we can also support that transition by creating social stories or visual schedules that also support those needs as well.
Thank you, Andy.
One other little piece I would add to that, I think, is exactly what Andy was pointing out about the earlier the better. As much information as you can provide throughout that transition allows TPS to really try to, before day one, make sure that the child has what they need coming in. And that just makes that transition much smoother.
Thank you, Jordan. And with that, we'll get into our next question. What is your district's enrollment process?
I can start this one, and Devani, I'll probably have you add in some information. So as you mentioned earlier, we do have some documents that we ask families to provide. Families do need some type of parent ID, whether that's a driver's license, some type of military ID, any type of tribal ID, anything of those sorts that are a state or government issued ID, birth certificates, a proof of address, and immunization records. However, the one thing I always want to point out is, especially in that enrollment window that was mentioned earlier from the 5th through the 12th, or yes, January 5th through the 12th of February, is just get the application in, and we can work with any families that might need support with getting any of the documents. We want to make sure that families get a choice in the enrollment process and get enrolled, and then we can offer any support with things that you're not able to get, any financial assistance that might be needed for any of those documents. And Devani, I'm sure you have some other things to add and can talk a little bit about the actual process much more than I can. So I'll pass it to you.
Yes, so like Jordan said, so the process is the parent will complete an application and they can choose up to 6 schools. If they want to find out what school is near them, or if they want any more information on a school, we do have a link in our website, on our enrollment website. It's called Find Schools, and it's a map, and you can type in your address and it'll show you what schools are near you. It also shows like if they're dual language, if they're immersion programs. So, and the application will be online. And so it's very important also that parents have a good email that they check. And then, so then like Jordan said, we need the documents. And if you have trouble with any documents, like obtaining them, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to the Enrollment Center and we'll be happy to help you. And then you'll be emailed that your application is approved, and you should know around April what school was assigned to you through the lottery.
Just to explain a little bit more about the six choices. Basically, during that window, when you can go in and choose your top 6 schools from their first, like this is my, if I can get into any school, I want it to be this one, down to your 6th choice. And then throughout that is where the lottery happens. So you're able to really go in, as Devani said, like into that Find Maps link. And you can really search for what it is that your child might need. Like Devani mentioned, whether it's a dual language program, whether you want to make sure that they have a before or after care program because you work past the hours that the school is runs throughout the day. Or maybe they have an older sibling and you want to find a school that is close to that older sibling's school, so that you're not driving back and forth around town going to different schools. And then your home school, which is actually where you live, the school that is in your area, is you will always be able to enroll in that school. So really the choices are if there are different things you're looking for throughout the district that are not your child's home school that's in your neighborhood.
Just to add one more thing. I know a lot of people are usually interested in magnet schools. They will not be requiring tours this year, obviously because of the pandemic. So that's waived this year.
Thank you. I did not know about that Find Schools function. So that's really, really helpful. Really, really helpful. Thank you. And with that, we'll get into our next question. How is kindergarten different from preschool?
So I would say the main difference is, of course, the age. Your child has to be 5 to be able to enroll in kindergarten. So I think that's the biggest difference. But there's also just a difference in pre-K. Of course, we're focusing on our academics while we're learning through play and exploring different concepts and themes. And in kindergarten, you start to see a transition, especially I would say towards from middle of the year to the second half of the year, where we're really starting to prepare the children to be able to be in an older classroom setting. Our kindergarten classrooms are still going to have dramatic play areas in them. Children are still going to visit centers. They're still going to do all of those things that you saw in pre-K, but throughout the year, we start to focus more on some of those skills that you mentioned that were so great in the beginning, like learning how to sit and focus for a longer sustained amount of time, being able to follow multiple step directions, using all of those skills that you built in pre-K and start really applying them to what an older school setting is going to look like in our 1st through 5th grade classrooms. So you'll definitely start to see, especially that second half of the year, more of a focus on sustained work and really working on some of those foundational academic skills that they're going to need to be successful in older grades.
Thank you, Jordan. Would anyone like to add?
I would also like to mention that at CAP Tulsa, we have a full inclusion model. And so with special education students, all of our students are in the classroom full day, and teachers like Marcy come in to support the classroom and support the student in their natural environment in that inclusion model. And oftentimes whenever a child goes to kindergarten, we do start to look at what is the most appropriate and individualized setting for some of our students receiving special education services. And sometimes that doesn't look like it does at CAP. And so I want parents to keep in mind that oftentimes whenever a special education student does go in to the public school, that classroom environment could look a little bit different.
Thank you, Andy. And with that, we'll move to our next question. What does pickup and drop off look like? I know Andy touched on this a little bit at the beginning.
So I can add a little bit to that, but anybody else can feel free to jump in. I think one of the biggest things is pickup and drop off vary greatly by the school. The majority of our pickup and drop off, there are multiple options. Sometimes we have a car line. Where in schools you can just drive through the car line. There's a staff that meets you at kind of at the back door and helps your child get into the classroom. A lot of our schools in the first week or two of class, they kind of help with that transition of being able to walk your child down to the classroom and make sure that they're settled. Obviously right now that looks very different. Hopefully that starting next year, we would be able to start that exact same thing again. Obviously, due to COVID right now, parents aren't coming in and out of the building. But typically, we kind of transition with our pre-K and kindergarten at the beginning to make that a little bit easier. Other schools have drop-off spots where you will be able to go to this door and meet your child's teacher and drop the child off and transition them into the building. So that is one of the things that I would say as a parent, I would definitely want to get clear on once my child is assigned to a certain school, because they do vary just kind of based on how many kids are in the school, what the building structure looks like and everything.
Thank you, Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I would add to pick up and drop off from that special education lens is that we also have para support in the public school systems. If a child were to need substantial support, they wouldn't just be dropped off at the front of the building. A para would meet that child at the vehicle, or if the child was using bus transportation, the para would also help to support the child off the bus. And oftentimes when special education students are riding the public school bus, there is an aide on that bus as well, just to ease the minds of parents that have kiddos going into kindergarten.
Thank you so much for adding that, Andy.
Thank you, Andy. Our next question is, can I volunteer in my child's classroom?
Again, this one looks very different right now in our current time. Right now, we do not have volunteers in and out of the buildings, but normally we absolutely love to have volunteers. Again, I would say what's available, how the volunteer works depends on which school your child is at. We typically have parent facilitators or parent volunteer coordinators at schools that really kind of run their school's volunteer program. And they really offer lots and a variety of different ways that families can engage and be involved in their child's classroom or school.
Thank you, Jordan. And the next question is, what does distance learning look like if my child's school, class, or district moves to distance learning? I know we've touched on this a little bit throughout our conversation so far, but if you guys could give a little bit more insight.
With my students on IEPs, we have developed a contingency plan. And with the parent, we've established how I will deliver those services from a distance. I'm doing Zoom classes, for example, with my general ed teacher's classroom, preparing learning activities and delivering those to the parents with instructions, making weekly check-ins. That is how I've done it with my services. Maybe Jordan can explain a little more for a full day pre-K or kindergarten classroom.
Sure, absolutely. So our district uses a program called Canvas. Most of the districts are using that right now. And it's basically a digital platform that families and kiddos can log into. TPS does make sure that every student, when they enroll, if they are in distance learning, would receive a laptop, a Wi-Fi hotspot if needed. So that all families can get online and be able to access that Canvas page. Our students have a little badge. They can log in on their Chromebook, just hold it up to the camera and it logs them in. And then they are able to go through basically a day on Canvas. Transparency, the majority of kids, my high school kids still need support. And we'd love to be able to say like, your kid can just hop on and do it. They need, it's a family event, but they're able to get on and watch videos that their teachers have recorded, access stories from their reading curriculum, math videos from their reading or their curriculum, social emotional learning activities to do at home or to watch and do with their teacher. And so they basically have an online schedule for the day, and then they have till the end of the week to be able to finish any of their stuff that they need to get done. It's a combination for our early childhood students of some of those academic pieces versus social, emotional, and activities to play and engage in with your hands at home. So kind of a combination of all things, but they definitely have touch points with their teachers over Zoom, like Marcy was mentioning, as well as videos and more of what you would think of as a pencil paper type of activity to do.
Thank you, Jordan.
Mhm.
Our next question is, what is your district's sick policy?
I can start with this one. I'm going to get to my notes on my sheet so I don't tell them. So I make sure I get all the details right. So the majority, basically we kind of, especially on our early childhood, have it kind of broken into like when is too sick for school. So if your child is running a fever of 100 degrees, if they are throwing up, if they have any type of open, like anything, let's say like pink eye, something that is very visually contagious, we will contact parents and ask them to be picked up from school or for you to keep them home if that happens before they start school. However, like we know we live in Oklahoma and like I have the worst allergies in the world. And so we always say like, if it's one of those and they're not running a fever, they're not throwing up, something like that, and they're just kind of, you know, dealing with whatever, whatever it is in that time of year. We always say, call the school, talk to the nurse, double check and see whether this is one of those times that it's okay for them to come to school or not. But the biggest thing is that fever over 100, any type of vomiting or any type of contagious open wound or any type of thing we would see like that. And then we do ask that they're fever-free for 24 hours before they come back to school.
And that's a process that's similar to what we do at CAP. So parents will be familiar with that.
Yeah, and the one thing I would add to this is there is a school nurse at every school. Well, there's a nurse that supervises multiple other medical people at each school. And if your child has any type of asthma, takes medication at school, I would say definitely pass that information on before your child starts and work with that school nurse so that they'll be able to always make sure that they have what they need at school and they know the right dosages and paperwork's taken care of so they can administer medication.
Thank you, Jordan. Mm-hmm. Was there anyone that wanted to add to that answer? And if not, we'll move to our next question. Will kindergarten provide support for my child who does not speak English as their first language?
I can take this one, but feel free to jump in if anyone has anything to add. So yes, absolutely. We have, and Marcy, you might know, is it 15 or 30 days? I'll have to look in my notes. but we have at max 30 days to be able, whenever we do a home language survey, and that is something that you will do every year for your child. And if English is not the first language at home, they will be given an assessment to be able to determine what it is that they need to be able to meet that child's needs. And then we do have ELL services throughout the district. Again, they look a little bit different depending on who's administering them. Sometimes we have teachers that come into the classroom and work with small groups of students in the classroom environment. Sometimes they pull students out of the classroom and do more individualized work with the child, but then they will be able to take an assessment every year just to check and make sure that they're on track with language and are still, they receive those services until they basically pass proficiency on that test.
Thank you, Jordan.
Mhm.
Was there anything else that anyone would like to add to that answer?
I was just thinking of meetings with the parent, and we will have an interpreter, translator for
support. Yep. Thank you. Okay. And our next question is, what kind of discipline do you use? So parents at CAP are familiar with conscious discipline. And so we did have some people that were interested in how their child would be disciplined at school.
Again, this one varies a little bit by school. We do have a overall district discipline policy that is really laid out in tiers of different things that might occur and what the overall district policy is for handling those. But then I would say, especially with our early childhood students, in our pre-K classrooms, we use a curriculum called Tools of the Mind, which has built-in social emotional learning with it. In kindergarten, each school kind of has their own discipline curriculum that they use. Some of them use Ruler. We have a few that use Love and Logic. We have a lot of schools that either implement conscious discipline or use pieces of conscious discipline with other curriculums that we use. But so there, I think this is kind of a two-part question. With the first one is the district. The district has an overall discipline policy that they follow, but then each school also has their own systems and different curriculums that they use for in-class discipline, like redirection and sharing with your friends, and those more, which you would see as a typical discipline in a pre-K kindergarten classrooms.
Thank you, Jordan. And our final question is, what types of tests will my child be given during the school year? And how will I be informed of my child's progress?
So there's, I think, multiple answers to this one. The main tests that students are given, kindergarten up through basically, I believe, high school, are the MAP assessment. And that is a national standardized assessment. That is their big picture assessment for the year. Those are given, I believe, 4 times a year. And students they're a computerized assessment. The teacher will sit with the students, they go on, they log in, they answer questions. It gives them an overall national standardized assessment score. So that is the big picture district assessment that's used to monitor all students' progress. However, there are assessments from the students' curriculum that they use in the classroom on an ongoing basis. And so there are also anecdotal records and notes and things that teachers take throughout the year. So I would say when we look at the assessment that's given 4 times a year, it's like that big picture snapshot of like the child's progress throughout the year. And then our curriculum and our teachers use other assessments that really monitor the child on a much more individualized level of how they're developing and how those academic skills are progressing. And then that information will be given to families with report cards. Of course, 4 times a year, you'll get a standard report card that tells you whether your child is progressing or mastering skills. In kindergarten, they will not get a through F percentage type of grade. They will get more of a, I'm mastering this standard in reading, so that you can see that I'm learning those foundational skills that we talked about at the beginning to be able to be ready for 1st through 5th grade. And then we also have parent-teacher conferences, and you'll be able to go in and meet with your child's teacher. Again, those are mainly being virtual this year. Hope that can return to normal. But that's where you'll be able to talk one-on-one with your child's teacher and hear about how they're doing. And then we also have, again, depending on schools, a lot of teachers use different programs to be able to text back and forth through a program, to send messages, for you to be able to monitor stuff. And then I'd say lastly, parents can log into a PowerSchool parent account, and they're able to monitor their child's grades and attendance and pull up all of that information from their phone or any other device.
Thank you, Jordan.
And Andy, I wouldn't doubt if you had some great information to add here about how IEPs are included in those. I bet you could go over that much clearer than me.
Well, so I think with IEPs, I would just mention that if a child already comes to public school with an IEP, they won't necessarily need to be evaluated again until they're about 10 years old. Right before their 10th birthday, and Marcy, you can definitely jump in on this as well. Right before their 10th birthday is when we start to look at how this child is going to take a map at school. And so they may go one way or another direction on a grading scale. And that's when we really start to look at what category of an IEP does this child fall under. And without going too in depth in that, I think that that's the biggest thing with IEPs that I would want to share. And then obviously, if there was a test given in a classroom, IEPs do hold a substantial amount of support for that child if there was an accommodation that needed to be made from a testing standpoint. So whether or not if a child is has a visual impairment, it might be that the print is larger. And all of those things can be individually addressed in that IEP for a student's needs.
Thank you, Andy.
I had one thing I was thinking, because I know that a few of the caps only go to 3 years of age. And so the parent might choose to put in a transfer for another cap program with a 4-year-old class, or go to a TPS 4-year-old pre-K. The testing in there, Jordan, we adopted ELQA, didn't we?
Yes, yeah, it is. Again, that's another big difference between, I would say, pre-K and kindergarten. Kindergarten is that first year that they start to explore that type of testing. I was a kindergarten teacher many years ago that gave that assessment, and it's a learning curve. It's learning how to take that test in kindergarten. And in pre-K, our students use ELQA paired with the tools of the MIND assessments, the developmental different tools that we use with that. But ELQA is, again, a digital assessment, but it's done very differently. It's the Early Learning Quick Assessment through OU, and a teacher sits down one-on-one with the child and looks at a computer screen with them and walks them through, where do you see the A on the screen? Can you point to it? So again, it's that kind of even beginning transition of in pre-K, you start to learn how to sit down with a teacher and have a guided assessment, whereas kindergarten, you're transitioning into learning how to take those other types of assessments.
I will share too that at Cap Tulsa, we also model some of the ELQA in our classrooms as well.
Yep, absolutely. And we actually are trying to kind of work to be able to share that data and it to be passed on to us when they transition.
Thank you so much. And with that, we'll move into questions from the chat. So please, if you have not submitted your question already, please use the Q&A button to submit your questions to the panelists.
Okay, we'll go ahead and go with the first one that was submitted previously. Someone would like to know their grandson has autism and is delayed. So which school would best meet his needs?
So I wanted to mention on this question specifically that we have reached out to the special education teacher that is serving this child currently in CAP, which would be in that same role that Marcy serves our students. And she has given me a lot of feedback to support the decision process for you. And I actually will be contacting you a little bit later this afternoon because I've also reached out to the school in question that you had concerns or interest in. And so I have reached out to that school as well to see what type of support they have specifically. So.
And I would add to that, Andy, I'm sure you know this and are in contact, but our exceptional student support team is really wonderful at being able to talk to you about the different programs that are in TPS and really being able to help you find which school is the best fit for your child.
Okay. And too broadly, I would just say that I think that that would be the best route if there was a question or concern that whenever we have a child transitioning from CAP to Tulsa Public, if they have concerns or questions, the best route would be to go directly to that district and see how they would best serve first and move from there.
And I can absolutely pass Andy or Miriam that information on to make sure it gets to the parent, that we can connect you with one of our heads of that department so that they can tell you a little bit more about the different programs and which one might be the best fit.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Another one that just came in is, what is the link for the Find My Schools website?
I can actually drop it in the chat.
Okay, that'd be perfect. Yes.
And I will just say on that, you can search a lot of different ways. I'm sure you'll see when you open it and kind of start exploring, but you can filter and look for different things that you might need. You can search by zip codes, you can search by specialized programs, before and after care, different things that you can kind of put in your criteria and see what's the best fit.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. There was another question that we had previous to this session. And what does it look like if people are perhaps out of district, but the parents are willing to bring the child every day? What does that transfer process look like?
Absolutely. Devani, I think you could probably answer this one better than I could, but I will say before you jump in, we absolutely can support any family who wants to transfer into the district. Devani, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so if you're out of district, you'll do the same process actually. You'll complete an application. You will have to fill out a form, which is an out of district form that the enrollment center can provide, and I'll make sure to get a copy from them too. But you will need to also fill that out, but you just need to do the same process as everyone else. Just apply, pick your top choice at number one, and then they'll let you know in April if you've been assigned to the school of your choice.
Okay. And if
I saw something pop up in the chat. Does this apply to students with an IEP? Absolutely. Yeah, any student is able to transfer into our district.
Thank you for clarifying that for us, Jordan.
Okay. And if there weren't any other questions, we would love if you have any additional updates that you wanted to share with the parents. We'd like to give you space for this time, or also to share any important dates, upcoming dates for our parents.
I thought of one thing, I don't know if it was clear or not, but if you did want to go to, like, Eugene Field CAP goes to 3, but you wanted to go to Eugene Field TPS pre-K, you do need to go to the open enrollment and enroll. it doesn't just roll over there.
Absolutely. So great. I know that's always there's always an area of confusion there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very glad you clarified that. Go ahead, Marcy.
I'm so sorry.
No.
Those dates again were January 5th through February 12th, 2021.
Yep. One additional thing to follow up with that window. After the 12th of February, the enrollment window will shut down for a moment while they process and do the lottery and do all of those applications. However, if you were to miss that enrollment window and you did not get enrolled during that time, you will be able to still enroll your child at TPS. The only difference will be is once that opens back up, like Devani and I will be doing a lot of recruitment and helping and enrolling families throughout May, June, and July, and even August. The difference is those 6 choices are basically whatever spots are left open. So that window really allows you to have that choice to go in to put your top 6 choices. And everybody whose application is in has that same chance of a random lottery of going to their schools of choice. You can still enroll after that. It'll just be that all of those have been decided and all of those spots have been filled. And whichever schools still have spaces open is what you would be able to choose from after that point. So I just want to make sure families know, like, oh, I didn't get it in. They can't go to pre-K or they can't go to kindergarten at TPS. They can still enroll. It'll just, some of those choices as far as everything being open at the same time will be different. One other thing I wanted, Devani, go ahead. I was going to say, let's tell about our different supports and events and things we'll be doing.
Yeah, the dates are still tentative, but they should be released on our Facebook page, on our Tulsa Public Schools Facebook page, and we also have an early childhood Facebook page. We'll be doing virtual office hours, the enrollment team and Jordan and I, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, starting around January 12th. Those dates, we'll post them out on our Facebook. And then also district-wide, they'll be hosting information sessions, going into specifics about curriculum, how does a day of pre-K, kindergarten looks like. Also, they'll also have like an information session for dual language programs.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Devani. Looks like we have another ping in the chat.
And I was going to add, Miriam, we will absolutely share those with you guys as well if you would like. Once we have the calendars of all of those dates and times, we'd love to share them with you so you guys could share them with your families.
Yes, thank you very much, Jordan.
There is one more question that came in. It says, when is open enrollment? What are those dates?
January 5th through February 12th is when the enrollment window runs. And you can absolutely, before that date, go on to that Find School and do all of the research and gather all of the items that you have available before that window starts. That's would be my biggest recommendation is now is a great time to start really looking at that website and finding out which schools might be the best fit.
Perfect, thank you.
I was just also going to express the importance of, if you don't know and you don't think of a question now, make sure you reach out to someone at Cap Tulsa at your child's school and we can get those answers for you.
And you are absolutely welcome to contact Devani or I directly at any point. Our emails are on our TPS early childhood page. As Devani mentioned, we have our early childhood Facebook page. It's at Tulsa ECE. You can message us through there. You can pull our emails from our early childhood website. Please do not hesitate to reach out with questions. I would say even with enrollment, Devani is amazing with, especially she's bilingual, so she's able to support any Spanish speaking families. But I just want to make sure you know, any families, if you pull up the enrollment process, it can feel overwhelming. So please reach out to us. We will hop on a call with you. We can text back and forth. We can help you upload documents. We are here to make sure that you are able to have a smooth transition to TPS.
And we appreciate your support, definitely. And if there weren't any other questions, we would really like to thank our guest panelists and attendees for contributing to this session. Thank you so much for your feedback and your questions. There will be an attendee post survey that you'll receive after the session. This discussion has been recorded and will be transcribed, translated, and posted as a resource to all parents. So in addition to this resource, you'll also receive a kindergarten transition booklet from your teacher. And that booklet will include some additional information about preparing for kindergarten, including information for contacting each enrollment center at each district. And if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, Miriam Conley at mconley@captulsa.org, or you can also visit the Transitioning Your Child to the Next Age Group page on CAP's website for more information. So thank you all so much for your time and enjoy the rest of your day.